Marketer of the day, number 508. The perfect client funnel. Generate new leads predictably, solve problems, and make money from group coaching with Healthpreneur fitness coach Yuri Elkaim. Hey everyone, we're so glad that you tuned in. We're talking right now with Yuri Elkaim, and Yuri is one of the world's premier speakers on business strategy and online marketing for health and fitness entrepreneurs, and he believes that being you is the greatest gift that you can give to others, so we'll be talking about that. And Yuri is also a strong believer in working smarter and not harder, especially in this day and age where things like the grind or the hustle are kind of heralded with badges of honor. And there's a time for hard work, but as with anything in life, more isn't necessarily better, especially when it comes to building your business, because those kind of things leads to burnout, dissatisfaction. We don't want that. We want to build smarter marketing campaigns, have self-managing systems. Yuri is going to set it straight. So how are things today, Yuri?
Things are going very well. Thank you so much. How about yourself?
Better than ever. Thanks for asking, and glad to hear it from you. So, I mean, out of all the the craziness that's always happening online, and we always need to focus and narrow things down. I mean, what has you fired up these days? What's your focus?
Really, it's trimming away the fat. It's really simplifying business down to its essentials and doing nothing else other than what really matters, which is bringing in new clients and helping them achieve an amazing result. So I have a health and fitness business that we've built online for 12 years, massively complex business, hundreds of products, all sorts of funnels. And I'm like, I never want to recreate that business ever again. So with our current company, Healthpreneur, which is more B2B, we've had it for, since the inception 2 years ago. The whole goal has been to create the simplest path to the end result, but the end result not just being success, but also fulfillment. Because I realized with my previous business, I wasn't very fulfilled and I was very disconnected from my audience. Selling a lot of products, everything, I was kind of hiding behind a lot of automation. And so with our current business, the whole idea is to scale by going deeper, not wider. So we're working a lot more closely with people, higher price points, really helping them get stuff done and really create results for them. And that's that's got me fired up. And we have a very, very simple business, which is very nice.
Well, cool. Great thing to get fired up about. And I can definitely relate, not to all of it, but to the aspect, I mean, not to the scale that you built things on, but the aspect of maybe getting off track, forgetting why I started, and then getting to the point where I'm just running around, putting out fires, all this stuff, and then just like kind of like corrupting my own business. And definitely the aspect of having the success, but then it's sort of a hollow victory of saying, all right, well, I have the success in the money or the business, but then it's such a time sucker. It's such a cause of stress, or even like the burnout factor of being like, geez, like just feeling tired or feeling run down and not really understanding why, and that need to have that business simplicity. So it sounds like, as you were setting that up, it sounds like you built it successfully the hard way first, right? Like now you have your cake and eat it too. Now things are simple, but it sounds like back in the day you built up the fitness stuff with all the extra baggage of all the hard work, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's really the way that a lot of people are still building their businesses, which is, build your platform, tons of content, lead magnet, tripwire, ascension funnel. And I mean, I've built more funnels than I can even remember counting. I'm happy I did all that because I really got well versed with direct response, copywriting, how to influence people in a positive way, understanding the nuances of, how to grow a business online. But, a lot of that stuff is tougher to do nowadays. And we see this especially in the health space with coaches or people trying to sell ebooks. I mean, the days of that stuff, the old model of doing that is dying a slow death. And I really believe that if people are still pursuing that business model, they're going to have a very tough time succeeding. Because when I started in 2006 online, you could sell an ebook for $67, no problem. Now, with all the information that you can get for free on YouTube, on a blog post, we've seen a price erosion. We've seen a huge demonetization of information. And that model is no longer what it used to be. So I really believe that if people are still doing that, they're going to struggle. And we're already seeing that happen. We're seeing people's deliverability email-wise go right down. The revenue being slashed in half, literally over the within the last year, because they're still operating in this old archaic model. So it's an exciting time if you're doing things that are kind of on the up and up and moving forward in the right direction, but it's also a very frustrating time if you're still relying on some of that older archaic stuff.
That makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like the analogy is sort of like how it used to be way back in the day before I was even born that the TV only had like 3 channels, 5 channels. Now there's a million channels. So it used to be you could just throw any old piece of crap on the TV. And now people like TV shows and things like that have to hook people because there's so much competition. And as far as the online stuff, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It seems like kind of a similar path there in that back in the day, you could just slap up something, you can price it whatever you want. You didn't have to be as focused or deliberate in the things that you did. You just could do whatever and then it would somehow work out. But now that there's all this extra competition, we need to be better about our strategy, be better about the things that are important that aren't important, right?
Yeah, and I think TV is actually a really good analogy because what TV is currently experiencing is everyone's using Netflix because they're not getting what they want from cable television. So Netflix comes in and says, "Hey guys, just whatever you want, when you want, for like $8 or $10 a month." And cable is again, it's dying a slow death. And even I would even say a lot of the Hollywood movies are really like, I mean, I don't know if I've seen a good movie on iTunes for the past 4 or 5 months because I think all of that focus and energy is now moving to like original shows on Netflix. So it's I mean it's if people are still producing stuff from the old way, I mean sure some of it might work, it might be an uphill battle, but when we have a completely new model which is really giving people more of what they want, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to compete against that.
So how do we figure out what people want? How do we do these things that are actually going to make us money in our business and stand out in this day and age?
Yeah, so I think there's a big opportunity now for true experts. So if you have expertise in a specific area that can really like solve a big pain or problem for someone, you have a big upper hand. If you don't, then what I'm about to say may not apply to you as much. But let's say you're someone who has an expertise in health or finances or business development or whatever, you can solve a problem for someone. The future is really going to be dictated by a lot more service-based offers. So we went through a whole, I'd say a decade or so where products and info products were a big thing. And the pendulum has swung the opposite direction now because the more high tech we get, the more high touch people are going to want. And that's just a human fact. Like we feel, I think more than ever, more disconnected from other humans, even though we have like Facebook and social media where, you'd think we're more connected, but we're really not. So we have a lot of nonsense going on that's disconnecting us from true human interaction. And I think as a business owner, if you offer any type of coaching or consulting, now is the time to really cash in on this, and not in a way that is, and I say cash in the most respectable way as possible, but really developing what we call a dream come true system around your expertise in a very specific way that moves people from where they are to where they want to be to help solve a problem or pain for them. And in a way where you're not doing one-on-one coaching, but you're coaching a group of people in a more leveraged fashion. So whether that's 5, 10, 20, 50 at the same time, all moving on the same path, on the same journey towards the same destination. And as a result of that, you're able to charge a lot more. So I believe we are in a day and age where premium pricing is a big, big advantage. Just like there's always going to be people who fly first class, there's always going to be people who want the best. And if you can bring the goods and you're willing to work with people a little bit more closely, again, not one-on-one, but in a leveraged group fashion, the opportunities now are better than I've ever seen. And the nice thing about that is when you build out your business model in a very simple way that can generate leads predictably for you, you have to spend more of your time doing what you love, which is teaching, coaching, and serving your clients. So that's really where our focus is. Obviously, we focus with health entrepreneurs and coaches and practitioners. But even if you're in consulting or finances or anything like that, the opportunity in that space right now is absolutely gigantic.
Super cool. So what I'm hearing from you is no reason to panic unless you're still trying to make it work the old-fashioned way. But if you're willing to do what's working now, then you'll have a lot of success. And I think that what what caught my attention there is that, so you say that you need to be a true expert and solve a big pain or a problem. So how does a person narrow down like what that is? And I mean, does that change over time? Is it a matter of figuring out over like trial and error? Like how does someone really get it dialed in? Like what's this big problem that I'm solving that's maybe in that sweet spot of I can do it really well, but it's not super competitive, but people want it. I mean, how does someone get that just exactly figured out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's a certain amount of self-awareness that has to come into play. So when it comes to health and fitness, there's a lot of different areas I can help people with. And that was my fault for not narrowing that down right from the get-go. So I became a generalist. Whereas other people, they've decided, listen, I'm going to be the person who specializes in thyroid disorders. And I'm going to help specifically women who have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And so I think part of it is, A, what is your background educationally in terms of, let's say you're in the health space where that's a bit more applicable. And you just say, listen, like I have a great expertise in this specific area. This is where I feel most passionate about because maybe it's personally affected me as well. Another way to consider it is just look like if it's more on the business to business side, maybe you're someone who has a really good ability to help people generate more leads using Instagram, right? So you can show people how to build their business using Instagram intelligently. And that might be a specific desire or pain point that sort of people are dealing with, right? They're using Instagram, they're spending all day doing Instagram stories, but nothing's coming of it. So you can show them a system to actually do things properly. Or maybe you're able to help someone understand and build out how to deploy Facebook ads profitably instead of just having Facebook ads that suck money out of your bank. So there's a lot of different problems. And as entrepreneurs, our goal is simply to solve problems at a profit. That's pretty much all we do. And there's a lot of different ways to position and package, what it is you offer. But at the core is that you have to pick one person, really figure out who that ideal client is, focus on one painful problem to solve, and what is that powerful promise you're going to make to help them get excited about how you can help them.
I love it. So you choose that ideal client, you figure out the promise, so that way you're not just tossing out a bunch of subjects or keywords or things like that. So this is making a lot of sense, especially like just the whole reminder of, well, you start with your background and get it narrowed down, but then like we need to be solving problems. We can't just, throw out a niche, throw out a subject. It needs to be getting someone to where they need to go, whether that's fixing their thyroid, getting the leads from Instagram, things like that. And you mentioned as we were getting ramped up here that it's important to not only solve this problem, but solve it for people, but then do it in a way that's in a group environment and leverage, not always one-on-one. So can you unpack that a little bit and tell us like what we need to know about this group stuff, this leveraging stuff?
Mm-hmm. So when I first started online, I guess the allure of the online business was set up a product, like set it and forget it really. Like put up an ebook, sell it, never interact with people, lay on the beach, live the laptop lifestyle. And there's still people that are still doing that. And there's obviously Amazon businesses that sell products that never interact with their customers, and that's fine. But what we're talking about here is really about if you want to do that, you have to have massive volume. Like you have to have volume upon volume of visits and clients and customers buying your stuff. And most people just don't have that. So when we look at a group coaching model, we're looking at, okay, I've got specific expertise in a certain area. And I've been working with clients over the last couple of years, and I seem to be saying the same thing over and over and over again. Now, what most people do is they create a course and they try to sell the course. So it's a DIY, do-it-yourself type of program. And usually most people sell it anywhere from like $500 to $2,000. And the trouble with that nowadays is that DIY is becoming very unattractive. Like people don't want to have 1,000 hours of videos to go through to figure something out. But the cool thing is that whatever work you put into writing a book, creating a course, whatever it is, there's a process behind that. There's a way that you help clients go from where they are to where they want to be. And all we're trying to do is unravel that. And then instead of just delivering it as a do-it-yourself course, we walk a cohort of people, a group of people, clients, together through that process. So it might look like you take your course and on a Monday, you release the first video. Here's the training, here's the marching orders for the week. On Thursday, for instance, you might come together as a group and do a Zoom call. So as a group, everyone's on the call, and this is where they can ask questions, troubleshoots, get the support that they need. And so what this allows you to do is really take the automation evergreen side of things and build it into more of a live experience so that people feel like they're getting personalized attention to their specific issues. And maybe this is built out over 4 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it is. But the key is that it's done with you, not do it yourself. And there's always going to be a higher desire for someone to do it with you or even done for you than there's going to be to do it by yourself. It's kind of like learning how to drive a car by yourself, which is kind of an interesting prospect, versus learning how to drive a car with an instructor. And at the top level, the done for you would be actually not even having to learn how to drive a car, because you have self-driving cars very soon that will be able to do that for you. So where coaching comes in is really, it hovers between that done with you and done for you grounds. And that's, it can take the form of, here are some swipe files, here are some frameworks and templates that you can deploy in your business. That's more done for you. Done with you becomes like the coaching and answering questions and really holding people's hands as a collective to move them through that process. And the nice thing is that usually most coaches get worn down with one-on-one, not only because it's time intensive, but it's also energy intensive. Like when you're dealing one-on-one with some people, you're taking a lot of their crap. So it turns into a psychotherapy session pretty quickly. In a group, that doesn't happen. You're working with however many people, 10, 20 people. Everyone's there. They're focused on the goal. They're not going to waste anyone's time with personal problems. And there's social accountability to the group. There's also accountability to you, the coach, because they've paid you a good sum of money to take part in it. And that alone makes a group versus one-on-one that much more effective. And when you pair that with a premium or higher priced type of offer, so the group coaching program is, not less expensive than one-on-one, because a lot of people think, well, if it's one-on-one, it's got to be more than if it's group, and that's completely false. It doesn't matter if it's one-on-one or group. All that matters is you're able to produce a result for your clients. So if you're charging $3, $4, $5, even higher, $1,000 for your specific program, it makes a lot of sense on your time, because now you're spending maybe 2 to 3 hours a week delivering it. And the rest of the time, like, you can focus on enrolling new clients, having more free time with yourself or your family. And it really just frees up your business instead of having to write thousands of blog posts, spend all day doing Instagram stories, and a lot of other stuff that is very, very unlikely to move the needle in a big way for you.
I like that a lot. Dang, I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I think I'm gonna go back and listen to the recording of that a couple of times, because like there's so much packed in there. But what you're saying there makes a lot of sense. That if someone out there has that scratch to itch, they have a really big problem, and they go and they look at some of these courses or things where they're just given these videos, I can definitely imagine that people might be looking at that, especially these days, and say, well, I already don't know what I'm going to do. If I get a bunch of videos, I'm either not going to go through them, or I might even be left more confused than when I started. And so I can definitely see the appeal to this group thing. And especially there's something in there about how when people are from the opposite side of things, from the coach's side, when there's the group environment, then those clients, so to speak, are on their best behavior. So that way they're not just rambling, or they're not turning it into the therapy session. They're actually focusing on what it is that their problems are. And just to get everyone caught up a little bit, you mentioned a Zoom call, which is a pretty new thing. Like I used to use GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar and stuff, but Zoom is pretty cool because you can just set the meeting room. People come in, everyone appears on camera, whether they're on their computer or on their phone. So that way it's just a really easy way for everyone to be in it together and just kind of meet face to face, or as close to face to face as they can be. And so, I mean, this all sounds really great. The Zoom stuff, the group coaching model, you have the membership site where like the orders on Monday, you meet on Thursday. But do you see any places where people get held up, or there any snags, or where there could be snags with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, number one, if you don't have a program that you fully believe in that can produce a result for someone, it's going to be very tough to sell it. So if you're charging $5,000 for, let's say, a 4 or 8 week coaching program, you need to be fully confident that what you're providing people can really make a difference in life. And so, number one, and that's a good thing because when people invest heavily with you, it forces you to be at the top of your game. Like you can't mess around. So that's the first thing. Is if you have to tweak some stuff and kind of run some stuff through some beta testers first, do that because you need to be able to make sure people get a result. Second thing is how do you get people to enroll in the first place? And there's a lot of different things you could be doing, but we've got a very simple process we call the perfect client pipeline. And it basically goes like this: Facebook ad to webinar, invite them to a strategy call. And between the webinar and strategy call, we have them fill out an application. So you have 4 moving parts. 3 of them are automated. So Facebook ads, webinar, and the application, you don't need to do anything with other than setting them up. Facebook ads, obviously, you'll manage those on a weekly basis. Maybe that's an hour to an hour and a half of your time if it's done properly. The webinar, if it does a good job, you don't really have to do anything with it. If it doesn't do a good job, then you can simply re-record it. And this is an automated evergreen webinar. So it's recorded once, not live every single day. So where most people drop the ball is they don't have a predictable way of bringing new leads into their business. That's the number one problem we see is they're doing manual prospecting. They're doing all sorts of stuff on social media. They're killing themselves creating content and nothing seems to be moving the needle. And that's just because they don't have a simple system like this, or they don't have the confidence to deploy a Facebook ad campaign because they're scared of losing money. And, Robert, as you know, there's a big difference between having a Facebook ad and having one that converts well. There's a big difference between having a webinar and a webinar that converts well. So it's just a matter of really following a proven process and a system so you're not wasting your time trying to figure all this out for years and wasting a lot of your money in the process. So having that predictable machine that is bringing leads in, converting them into qualified prospects. And then again, if we're offering coaching here, we're going to move people into some type of call because if you're offering a $5,000 type of program, it's not going to happen from a buy now button on a sales page. Like you have to be speaking to people to enroll them at that level. So you want to make sure that the people you're speaking to are highly qualified. And that's where the Facebook ad, webinar, and application all play an important role to qualify and disqualify people so that the only people you get on the phone with are pretty warm, if not very hot. And typically what we see is if we speak to 2 people, one of them will enroll. And if you've done things properly, that percentage can even be higher. But the key is that these calls are not sales pitches. They're not full on like hard closes. They're really about serving and seeing if there's a good fit for the both of you to work together. And if there is, then it's just a matter of showing you can help them and then just letting them know, like, here's the next step if you're interested. And so I'd say where people really kind of lose their footing a little bit is on, number one, generating those leads predictably. That's where Facebook ads come in because they're like 24/7 digital salespeople for you. And then obviously the webinar has to be done properly. And then obviously like the deliverable. Like if you're not producing a great results, then you're not gonna have a lot of confidence to get out there and really put some money behind this. But the good thing is that if it's done properly, you could be spending $1 on Facebook ads, making 2 in return, making 5 in return, making 10 in return. That's an obscene type of ROI that you just can't see with low-end information products. And really like any other investment that I'm aware of. Like if you put in $1 to Facebook ads and you can get 5 back within a week, I mean, that's a 500% return. You're never going to see that anywhere else in the world. So this is what we do in our business. This is what we help our clients do. And this is why it's very exciting because there's only a small number of moving parts. This is the only funnel you need. You don't need to be split testing 1,000 different things. There's only a few spots where things can, quote unquote break. And it's very easy to identify what those are and then be able to fix those. So it becomes very, very exciting for people because they don't have to spend all their time marketing. It's all more or less automated. And then they get to spend more of their time actually speaking with people, coaching people to great results, and while making a lot more profit in the process.
Super awesome. I love it. And I mean, so much good stuff in there. And especially that, I definitely have in the past been stuck in the area that you mentioned where, just cranking out the content, cranking out the blog posts without a real clear plan. And some of what you laid out there reminds me of like, cause like I sell software and things like that. And years ago, everyone was obsessed with this idea of like drip content, right? Like I got to have my membership site. I need to have drip content. And if I don't have drip content, then I'm not going to make any money. And if I do have drip content, I am going to make money. And it was sort of a silly thing to see people worrying about when it's like, well, you don't necessarily need to have this one gimmick. You need to solve problems and have this funnel to bring people through. And then as far as that whole area of talking to prospects on the phone and selling them on something high ticket, that was something where I hesitated for years because I didn't do it with the funnel. I was just calling, random customers or having them call me, and we didn't really know what to talk about, and it was a bad experience. But then in these last few months, I've come around to your way of thinking and a lot of these things that you're laying out here of having the funnel in place for the purposes of really filtering down who you should be talking to and vice versa, right? So that way you're talking to people who you want to work with, who would want to work with you, and it makes it a very smooth process. And so yeah, this all sounds great. And this is like the way to pivot in this day and age where the rug has been pulled out from under a lot of us, where there's more competition, the Facebook ads cost more, there's more marketers out there, so we have to get this funnel, this machine in place that you talked about. And I'm assuming, or I'm guessing, that you have some resources and links for us to help us get to where we want to go, because I definitely don't have time to unpack all the steps and strategies and things like that on a podcast episode. So I mean, what do you have for us? What sort of resources and links here to help us get this sort of system in place? That way we can have the ideal business.
Yeah, for sure. So our main website is, it's actually funny because we've taken down all of our lead magnets, all of our courses, and we basically have simplified our business to a very, very, very simple model for us, where there's two ways we work with people. One is our workshop, and then one is our mastermind. And in order to get to our mastermind, you have to do the workshop. But to get a better sense of how we kind of all lay this out, and more specifically, what we believe is the new way of building a seven-figure business in the new era, we've got a great webinar. It's actually mostly catered to, obviously, the health and fitness industry. So if you're a health or wellness practitioner, a fitness coach, anyone who has an expertise in that area who enjoys coaching people, or you have a supplement-based business that is not on Amazon, that you want to learn how to grow and avoid becoming commoditized, we can certainly help with that. So I've got a great webinar. Again, it's called the Seven-Figure Health Business Blueprint. And people can register for that if they want to at healthpreneurgroup.com/9. That's the number 9. And that'll just take you over to the registration page, which is a super fancy registration page. Not really, but it's a 71-minute training. It will basically unravel in more depth what we're talking about here and really give people a tangible way of going into the future. And especially if they're into any kind of coaching, this is a game changer for them for sure.
Super cool. So if you're the kind of person that you're worried about upcoming changes, or you feel like the old tricks aren't working, you need some new strategies, then go right now to healthpreneurgroup.com/9 and figure out what you need to know. As Yuri said, whether you're a fitness coach, a non-Amazon supplement business, whatever your situation is, go there and hear Yuri out and hear and see what he has to say. So that way you know what you need to be doing to work smarter and not harder and outdo your competition and make a bunch of money and have a bunch of free time and enjoy what you're doing and all those great things that happens from having a successful business. So there's no downside to hearing some new advice, some new tips and things like that. So make sure you go there to healthpreneurgroup.com/9. We'll see you over there. And thanks, Yuri, so much for stopping by and dropping tons of knowledge, packing a ton into this call. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you too.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Robert.
Please subscribe, rate, and review our show at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes and like us on Facebook at marketeroftheday.com/Facebook.